Akimbo, host of the Time for Coffee podcast, where you get first-hand career advice into the jobs and industries that interest you the most. And before we start today's show, I have a quick favor to ask you. If you haven't already, I'd be incredibly grateful if you give us a rating and a review on iTunes. And if you're like me, you need to do it now because you'll forget later and because it's the best way to help others who may be in search of career advice to find this free resource. So press pause if you haven't done it and do it right now. I'll wait. Thanks so much and enjoy today's show. Hey there, Java Junkies. Welcome to another K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. By the way, K-Cups come in 3 sizes, single, double, and triple shots, or roughly 1 minute, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes in length. So if you don't have time to throw back an entire caffeinated career conversation, these K-Cup mini episodes of T4C can give you a quick caffeinated fix, whether you're on the go or you only have a few minutes to binge. So grab your mug and take a chug, because it's time for a caffeinated career double shot K-Cup with my guest, Seth Godin.
In 1983, Activision was the fastest growing company in the history of the world. Let's think about that for a minute. The fastest growing company in the history of the world. And the CEO of Activision came on campus to give a speech. And at the end of the speech, anyone could have walked up to talk to him, but no one did but me. And I went up to talk to him and I said, "Hey, Jim, loved your talk. I'd like to intern for you as your assistant this summer, because this is the fastest growing company in the history of the world. And I would like to see how you're doing it." And he said, "Here's my card. Come see me in 2 weeks." So what I did was I decided if I just went in and said, "Tell me what to do, I'll do it." If I went in and said, "You can pick anyone and I'm anyone," he wouldn't have any time for me. So instead, I dug out an article by a guy named Ted Levitt, which I encourage everyone to read, called Marketing Myopia from 1963. And I walk into his office. Now, again, this isn't because I have a gift. I don't. It's because I had nothing to lose, just like you. And I walk into the meeting and I say, "Here's the thing, Jim. You guys make cartridges for the Nintendo. That's not going to last. But as we learn in this article, Marketing Myopia, what you should do is not define yourself as a Nintendo cartridge business, but define yourself as being in the entertainment business for a generation. So maybe you could go completely clean up in the computer game business because you'll have no competition." And Jim looked me in the eye and stood up to throw me out of the office. This was after 1 minute. And right then the door opens and his head of human resources walks in holding a copy of Cashbox magazine. Cashbox magazine was like Billboard in those days, and it had a chart on the back, best-selling games. And the HR person comes and says, "Great news. We have 9 of the 10 best-selling games in America this week," which was the first time that had ever happened. And so Jim leaves and goes down the hall to celebrate with all the other executives. I'm just sitting there. He didn't say it. I'm just sitting there. And he comes back in 20 minutes and he looks at me and he says, "Are you still here?" I say, "Yeah." He says, "Okay, you start on June 1st. And I leave. And then...
and how old were you at this point?
23. And so everyone says, "Wow, what a lucky break." And then the woman who I was dating, who lived in Boston, calls me up and says, "I said I was coming to California for the summer, but I'm not." So I turned down the job at Activision, never worked at Activision for one day. And I went to Boston and worked for a company no one ever heard of. And because it was a company no one ever heard of, I was the only person who applied for a job there. Again, all of these little things are really good luck, but I'm leaving out all the things that were really bad luck. It doesn't matter. What matters is if you had enough privilege and you had enough advantage to go to the kind of college that you went to, and you're listening to a podcast like this, you have enough resources to go get a job at a company no one ever heard of and screw up. Because I screwed up a lot. And I was just really fortunate that my screw ups were all the right kind of screw ups in the sense that they didn't get me fired.
Thanks for tuning in to this K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. If you want to listen to our entire caffeinated career conversation, please check out the show notes for this episode. Thanks so much for listening to this latest episode of T4C. And if you're interested in learning more about my coaching services for confused college students and recent grads, feel free to check out the Time for Coffee website under the coaching tab at time4coffee.org or text me at 202-236-5712. That's 202-236-5712.